it's Lee from coloringqueen.net, and today I've got some Spectrum Noir metallic markers and Spectrum Noir Colorista Dark Pads that they were kind enough to send to me. And I've been playing with them and I got a bit attached, so I went out and bought the metallic pencils as well from this metallics range that they have. So let's have a look at the markers first. Now you can see that the box is a little ratty because I have been playing with them quite a bit. Spectrum Noir are the most patient brand I know. They sent these to me months ago, and as most people know, we've moved and had no internet for a while, so I've had a lot of opportunity to play with them while I've been waiting to do this review. So they come packaged in a nice little plastic blister pack there to keep them protected. And you can see on the cover here, they've got the name of the marker and the tip size, which end is the fine tip and which end is the larger tip. Now, these are actual liquid metallic. They've actually got metal in them. So that makes them incredibly useful for different purposes, and we'll see that when we swatch them out. Now there's 12 colours in the range, and being a metallic, they do sort of work better on a dark based background like a black, which is why I've got these lovely Colorista Dark Pads here. But they also work on white as well, but you don't get the same amount of metallic look on white as you do on a black, which really makes it pop. But we'll have a look at them and swatch them out. So I'm going to swatch them on black first. So I'm just going to use the black card on the reverse of these image. Now currently there are 12 colours in the range, which this set, which is these lovely pretty colours, and there's another set of 6 which are more your golds and your bronzes, etc. So you can see I've just put out the name there in the fine tip. So we've got a pink quartz, an amethyst, a blue topaz, red garnet, jade green and green citrine. So let's try it on the white. So that's 6 out of the 12 current colours that they have in the range, and you can see those different size tips. So while we're swatching, we may as well swatch out the pencils as well. Now these are metallics, and there's 12 in this current set. They come in a nice little tin box. Colours on the back. And you can see that these are the 6 colours that I've just swatched out in the markers. And these are the colours that are also available in the metallic markers as well. This is our violet, which I'm guessing is amethyst. So they're not the same names, but they look pretty close. This one's a purple, so I'll put that with amethyst as well. This one is yellow. I'm going to put that with the green citrine. Now the pencils are wax based and the markers are water based. So it sort of looks a bit bronzish. Rose gold. Nickel. Silver. And a gold. So the names are on the barrel as well, on both the markers and the pencils. So now I can see the pencils up against the markers as well on both the white and black, and you can see on the dark background on the black they really pop a lot more than the white, but on white you're still getting a great effect. It's just pops a lot more on the darker based material. Now, as well as being able to use these on paper, you can also use them on a lot of other different materials. So for example, you can use them on acetate, you can use them on vellum. If you're a card maker, you can use them with your rubber stamps or your stencil pencils, etc. that you use for card making. You can also use them on fabric, however they are not washable, so it would only be if you were decorating, say, a piece of fabric painting that was going to be put behind glass and framed perhaps, but you can't use it on, say, a t-shirt that you're going to wash. But you can also use it on things like glass. So this is my little pencil sharpener shaving jar. I've got a bigger one that I empty them out. For some odd reason I collect my pencil shavings. Do you guys do that? Is it just me? So I empty the little jar into the big jar every now and again. So we can use it on glassware, and in fact you can use it on any non-porous type surface. There's my little heart on my little glass jar, just with the metallic marker. And of course you can use them in your colouring. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use these. Because they're water-based, you can also add water with them. So let's start off with some of the basic ways. And before we go too far, let's have a look at these Colorista Dark Pads. Aren't they gorgeous? There's a range of these pads in the Colorista range by Spectrum Noir. If you've seen last year, I reviewed these lovely little foil pads, and these are gorgeous. I've just been experimenting on that one. But I've taken the pictures out that I've coloured, but these have either silver foil or gold foil on them. You can get them in glitter. They've got all different sorts of patterns, and they've got all different sorts of things with these Colorista pads. And they make them either for pencil or for markers. Now, I've, been brave and used markers on the pencil one, and it's been fine. Now this is their pencil Colorista Dark, so the whole pad is dark, and what it is, this is not silver, it's just reflecting a bit, but this is like an embossed black line on it. And what happens is when you're colouring, this little black line or this little embossed type bit forms like a ridge, and it makes it super easy to colour. So you got these lovely little flowers, big flower, so many different patterns in here. And just because they're by Spectrum Noir, it doesn't mean that you can't use other products. So if you don't have the Spectrum Noir pencils, etc., you can still use other brands in here. I've tried them with my Prismacolors, Polychromos, and they all work fine. As well, of course, as the Spectrum Noir colour blend pencils. I've used those as well on here. Now these ones are designed for pencils, but we're going to live life dangerously, and we're going to use our metallic markers in these. So these come in so many different patterns, it's unbelievable. Look at that. I don't know if you can see the detail on that drawing, but it's just stunning. Now, these are just so beautiful, but when they're finished, if you frame them up, you could give them to people, which would be a super lovely gift, and put them all in a picture frame, or maybe get one of those frames that's like a collage, and you could put them all in there together. So I hope you can see those little black lines. They're super easy to make it easier to work with and to colour. You don't have to worry about, going over the lines, and you'll see in a minute how quick and easy it would be to make a gift for somebody just by using these. So here's one that I've coloured all solid in just the markers. And I just used the green citrine, the jade green, and the red garnet. And you can see how it pops on the black background. So I'll just show you how easy this is to solidly colour. The good thing is these little embossy bits, they form like a little ridge so that you don't go out of the lines. You can feel it. It feels like a little smooth surface when you go over it. And of course you can use this just for an accent colour as well if you wanted to. So there you can see how smooth it goes on. Just solidly colouring using just 3 of the metallic markers. Now here's a picture that I've been working on with the metallic pencils that I have. And you can use these on their own. So I've done the silver here, just on their own. And again, this black emboss on the Colorista pad is fantastic because you kind of keep within the lines. If you go out of the lines, it doesn't matter because you feel it up against the ridge on it. So you can just go straight down solidly like this. And when you're doing these sorts of areas, you can just go over the ridge just like that without having to do each individual one. Now just bear in mind that I'm not colouring like I normally would because I colour standing up when I film, because otherwise I knock the camera. Now, as well as using the metallic
pencils just on their own, you can also colour over regular pencil. Now, you don't need to use Spectrum Noir pencils, you can use whatever brand you fancy, and you can blend these up
on here if you wanted to. I've blended colours on these other ones. And I'll just use a Prismacolor on this side so that you know that you can use other brands of pencil. I've tested it with my Staedtler Ergosoft, the Polychromos, the Prismacolors, the Spectrum Noir, quite a few different brands on these Colorista pads. You might hear my little dog snoring in the background. He's clearly had a rough night. So we can go over these with the metallic pencil. And just while I'm here, I might just sharpen this one up so you can see what it sharpens like. Now these pencils are wax based, so make sure that you clean up your sharpener every now and again with a lead pencil, just by running a lead pencil through it, so that you can remove any of the build-up of wax that might accumulate. So you can see how easily that's sharpened up to a point. And it's up to you how much little metallic effect that you want to add to this, and how many times you want to layer it up, and what sort of look you're aiming for. Might put a bit of blue on there as well. And just like the markers, you can also use these as accents on your regular colouring pages or wherever you fancy, scrapbooking, cards, whatever. Now you can also use these on the white background paper, but you won't get quite as much spark out of it as you would on the black because it won't pop as much. But you can actually really notice it when you're up front and personal. So I'm just using some colours here, and then might go over it with some metallic pink. If I was sitting down properly, I'll be doing a much neater job of this. It's just unfortunate I cannot get the camera angle. And the good thing about these ridges is you can just go straight over it like that, and those little ridges protect you. They sort of contain all the colour within that barrier. Now, one of my favourite ways, you can see that that's sparkling, but it doesn't pop quite as much as it does on the black. One of my favourite ways to blend these in, or to blend any wax pencil for that matter, is to use a marker. And I've spoken about this before, that I like to use blender pencils or even make up my own blender fluid to use it for blending. It's particularly useful if you have a hand injury like I have, because then you spend less time layering. So see the difference here just from rubbing that blender pen over it, and then that way you get your effects a lot quicker. So if you were making these for gifts, you could churn them out like the Santa's elf factory. This is the Spectrum Noir blender pen that I'm using. It's really made for the marker range, but I use it for pencils. And I find having the chisel tip and the small tip means that you've got a little bit more precision where you're layering or where you're doing my quick way of blending. Whenever you use it, make sure that you wipe off the tip afterwards, because otherwise you'll get a dirty tip. And so there we can see our little metallics all sparkling, and even on the white paper. Now there's one more thing that we can do with these metallic markers, as well of course using them as accents, just using them in general. So I might just use them to colour up these little leaves. Probably should go with the smaller point. Now you can also layer these markers up, and I'm not going to say sort of blending because it's a little bit difficult to blend them together, but you can sort of form like a little gradient. And again, I am so far away from the page that I'm desperately going out of the lines here. So you can sort of graduate them between like that. And it's not quite blended, but it's sort of like a little gradient. Now one of the neat tricks that you can do with the pencils is add water. So you know how sometimes you might want to soften up your pencil stroke? They might seem a bit scratchy or just not as smooth as you want. So with these metallic wax-based pencils, you can use the blender marker to blend them out and form like a little graduated colour there. So you get a nice little wash type look. Or you can soften out the look. So I'm just doing this on an angle so it's a little bit scratchy, just so that you can see. And then I'm just going to take my little paintbrush, dip it into a little bit of water, not too much, and just soften those lines up a little bit. Now I can't find my normal water brush since we've moved, but so this brush is a little bit ratty, but you get the idea that you can just soften it up. So it's not like a true watercolor, don't think that. It's just making it a softer look, and it's taking away any of those pencil marks that you sometimes get with a scratchy pencil if you've just sharpened it or something like that. So there's some neat tricks that you can do with that. Now you can also use the markers as a watercolor because they're water-based. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this, and I'll tell you my favourite way. I've done a few experiments, but we're all different, remember. Now I don't know if it's because I live in Australia and it's super hot at the moment, but I find that the method of just adding a little bit of marker to the paper and then dissolving it with just a dab of water, this is my least favourite method, and of course it's working perfectly today. But when I've tried this previously, probably because it's so hot here, it hasn't dissolved as well as I would have liked. But of course today it's not quite as hot and it's working very well. Just put a little dab on. I've probably put too much there and now I'm having trouble dissolving that bit. But just put a little dab on and then just move it very, very quickly. Don't walk away and have a coffee and then come back because it'll have dried by then. You can do it that way. The other way that you can do is just grab your little bit of plastic You can use whatever you fancy. You don't need one of these. This is just from the dollar shop, by the way. It's not a fancy thing by any means. And just put in a bit of your colour and just add a little bit of water to it. And you can move that along. Now it might pool on top, but the useful thing about these Colorista pads is that foiling, or if we're using the black one, that embossing sort of holds it all together, which is great. And if you go out of the lines, well, it just looks beautiful anyway. And usually you can sort of scrape that off with your fingernail anyway once it's dried. When I do the watercolour, I actually prefer to wet the paper down first. By the way, when I use that blender marker, it really only works on the white base paper. The black doesn't seem to work very well with this. So I like to wet down the paper first, and then, especially if it's hot, this was the way that was working best for me when the weather was super hot the other day, and then just shift it around. So you've got a few options there of making this work. So let's try the same thing on the black. Now on the black, it really does tend to look, unless maybe you're doing another colour, it tends just to look very much like a colour wash rather than as bright. So that's the purple on the black, and really you're probably not seeing it very much as a colour wash. But my preferred method is to soak up a pile of water, put it on there, and soak that in. And then the great thing about these pads is you can just go completely all over it like that. And then grab your marker and just whoosh it around. So on the black it doesn't pop as much, it's more of a wash when you add water, but you can still get some nice effects. And I don't know how well this is picking up on camera, but it does look very metallic and very sparkly. So if I want to do more of that, I can just come down the other way as well and add in a bit more colour. Now to me, when you're using the watercolour, it does look better on the white to me. It looks better on the black when you're solidly colouring, but you know, we're all different, all personal preference. But to me, I like the look of the white better. And so you can see it's coming through, but it's pretty faint. And for me, the white gives a better effect when you're using this as a watercolour. So there we have it. We've got a number of different ways that we can use these lovely metallic markers. We can colour solidly, we can use them as an accent, we can use them with regular pencils or with our metallic pencils. So we can come in here and add a bit of sparkle if we want, just by using it as an accent colour. You can use it on glass, you can use it on fabric as long as you're not going to wash that fabric. And here's what I first started experimenting with different coloured pencils, polychromos, using it as a wash, using it just metals, so you can mix and match, do all what you want. There's our colour swatch. And they go super well with those metallic pencils. But for me, the water, when we dilute it with water, I really like it better on the white than on the black, but that's just personal preference. So you can blend out those pencils, you can blend them with normal pencils, you can use your colourless blender to blend, you can use it direct onto the paper and sort of soak it through. So lots and lots of things that you can do with both the Colorista pads and the metallic markers and pencils. So until next time, happy colouring.